Hello, crafty friends. This is Leah Lawson, and I'm excited to be back on the Scrapbook.com YouTube channel today. I am creating a cozy trio of cards featuring the Cozy Foliage die set. You get all of these fantastic leafy pieces. There's a pine cone and a little bow. And we are basically going to die cut every single one of those dies from white cardstock. And then we will want the bow 3 to 4 times. In the end, I use the bow 3 times. So I think I die cut 4, but we really technically only need 3. So right now would be a good time to pause the video because I'm going to do all of the die cutting off screen. So when all is said and done, we have all of our pieces of the Cozy Foliage dies cut from white cardstock. Now, you absolutely could cut these from colored cardstock if you want, but I thought it would be a fun way to show how you can use your inks to add color to these fun dies rather than using cardstock. Sometimes when you're a beginner crafter, you don't have hundreds of shades of cardstock, but you might have more ink, especially if you're more of a card maker or a stamper. So all I'm doing here is I have my Grip Mate, I think it's called the Grip Mate mat, yes. And I am putting some of the pieces onto the mat so that they will be super easy to ink blend. This tool is invaluable when it comes to blending little pieces like this. Can you imagine trying to hold them down with your finger and ink blend ink into little sections of it? That would be awful. So, big fan of grip mats, and this is the Scrapbook.com version, which I just love. So to start, I am going to grab a nice dark tone of ink for the pine boughs, pardon me. For these ones, I am using evergreen ink. You can really use any shade of deep green that you might have. And I am just using a nice big brush to blend the ink in there. So what I love about big brushes like this is it does allow you to blend a little deeper in one area, and then as you blend out, it gets softer, and it just naturally happens that way. So up next, we are blending the pine cone. I chose a nice shade of brown for this one called Gathered Twigs. You can really use any brown that you might have on hand, and if you feel like you don't have a deep enough brown, if you blend multiple layers on top of it, that really that will help deepen the tone of the shade of the brown as well. So up next, we are blending in what looks like holly leaves. I am going a little bit of a different route on this one and blending them in with a nice bold turquoise. I think they're going to be a really lovely pop of color when we go to use them on one of our fun cards for today. So if you aren't a fan of turquoise colored greenery, you can of course always change that to a more traditional tone of green. Now up next, we have these more sprig type of greenery. These ones I'm keeping nice and light, and I am ink blending them in a shade of mint. I am blending a little deeper at the base of these ones and just letting that mint ink fade a little bit as I blend towards the end of each of these sprigs. Now, these are really fun foliage pieces. I can't wait to start building these cards with you. And I think we will end up getting 3 full cards out of all of these different die cut pieces. So I am excited about how this works when die cutting from white cardstock. Now, finally, on this round of blending, we are blending in those cute little bows. I chose red for all of the bows. I think that they will go great with all of them. Now, some of my greenery right now looks a little bit more wintry or Christmas themed. So I don't know about you, but currently in my craft room, I have a little bit of everything going on. I've got Halloween, I've got fall and Thanksgiving. I still have a whole lot of Christmas to work on as well. So these cards are just going to be a little bit of a blend of all of the holidays. So finally, we have these leaves, which we are going to turn into a little bit more fall themed colors. So I started by blending a little bit of orange, came in with some marigold. You'll notice on these ones I'm doing a little bit of two-tone blending, and then coming back in with some of that same brown that we used for the pine cone, the gathered twigs, to create a little bit of an ombre colored leaf here. So as mentioned, these cards, while the sentiments are a little bit more general, which I love, we've got a little bit of fall, and we've also got a little bit of that like wintry holiday feel. So we got all of the seasons packed up into our ink blended cozy foliage. Now, we need a couple of frames for two of our cards. These are the nested stitched flat ovals, pardon me. These are some of my favorite nesting dies that Scrapbook.com offers. And we're going to use the first two sizes of ovals to create a frame. Now we are using the holographics paper pad, and we are going to cut from that gold and then also that kind of holographic silver. So I did that off camera. All you got to do is tape the two dies together down onto the specialty cardstock and run it through your die cut machine, and you get perfect oval frames that we will use on our cards here in just a little bit. We have a little bit more die cutting to do. So we've got to do all of our sentiments. So for this one, we are using the thank you 3-word dies. It has thanks, hello, and thank you sentiments. I love that these are nice and general. We are going to cut only the inner dies, and we're going to cut them once from ivory glitter and twice from white cardstock. Now would be a good time to pause if you are crafting along with me or watching on the replay. So once you have each word cut 3 times, as mentioned, once from that ivory glitter, or you can substitute out the ivory glitter for gold or gold glitter or white glitter or even just another solid cardstock color. But once we have those all cut out, we need to stack and glue each of the layers together. So I like to use a fine tipped glue. I am using Barely Art glue for this. And what I do is I just glue the 2 white layers together, and then I go ahead and add the ivory glitter layer to the top. And then you have a nice stacked sentiment. It adds a little bit of sturdiness to the sentiment, so it makes it easy to adhere down to your card front. And it also provides a little bit of additional dimension, and you don't have to put foam tape. Now, if you want to add foam tape, you certainly can, but you don't have to. So I've got all of the sentiments finished except for this final word, the one that's the thank by itself without the S. And once these are all finished, we are going to move on to getting our card bases all put together and set up. So the backgrounds of our card bases are coming from the Ginghams patterned paper pad. This is the A2 sized, and I have chosen those 3 different gingham options. Now I've already created my card bases. I have 2 portrait top folding and then 1 landscape top folding. Now, this kind of more brownish tone plaid, I want to cut at an angle, so we're not going to use the whole thing. Great thing about plaid paper is you can cut along one of the lines. So I just was having a hard time deciding which exact line I wanted to cut on. So bear with me while I make that choice, but really easy, especially I have this paper trimmer has like a wire guide in it. So it makes it super easy to find that line, especially on plaid paper. So those thin foam strips, those are some of my very favorite foam strips from Scrapbook.com. I think I've mentioned in every video that I have almost an entire drawer of them. So I only put the foam tape on the inner edge of that brownish plaid paper. Then I'm going to add some liquid glue to the edges, and that will give just a little bit of dimension for later on in the card when we start accenting with all of the foliage. So the angled paper we are going to align to the top of the card base. And then that leaves room down in that lower corner for the sentiment and all of that. So we will let this guy sit, and we're going to go ahead and just glue the other two gingham pattern papers directly to each of the card fronts. We will end up popping some elements up with foam tape later on. So just to make these a little bit more post office friendly, I figured gluing those gingham papers down directly to the card base was the best bet. We're going to do the same with this red and pink gingham design. I just love these papers. They're so cozy. They're really perfect for this time of year. They encompass so many seasons, especially fall and winter. So I think that this is a really fun paper pad if you don't have it yet. And it's offered in two sizes. You have the A2 size, and then I believe the other size is 6x8. So I went ahead and I glued one of those oval frames that we die cut earlier already, but I thought I would show you a fun little trick with those thin foam strips that I can't take credit for. I learned this from someone else long time ago, many years ago, but I can't remember who. But if you remove the top layer of the release paper from those thin strips, they actually curve super easy. So you don't have to keep trimming. You don't have to fight with the release paper to get it to curve and then run the risk of it sticking out from underneath your frame. So it's such a great little tip. It's possible I've shared this here before, but in case I haven't, this is really great for if you're doing like shaker windows or shaker cards as well. This is just, it's such an easy way to adhere thin foam strips to make a frame or a shaker window or anything that's curvy. Anything that has a curve to it, if you remove the release paper, it just makes it so much easier to adhere down. Now, it sticks to your fingers a little bit because the release paper is not there. So you do have to deal with that. There's always a give and a take, right? But the minimal amount of sticking to your fingers doesn't bother me when it makes it so much easier to adhere it down. So now I'm just taking my time to adhere this to the card front. Another great thing about a plaid or a gingham is you can use lines to help adhere items down like this so that they're nice and straight and not all wonky when you put them on to your card front. So we have the basic basis of all three of our cards. So now let's go ahead and figure out where we're going to put our sentiments. So the thanks sentiment fits really well in the open space under that brownish plaid. And then the landscape card fits the full thank you word a little bit better than the portrait card. So they kind of naturally fell into place. So now that I have figured out where, the placement of the sentiment and where I want to go, I am just going to go ahead and glue it directly to the card front with some liquid glue. I've already added the extra dimension by cutting it 3 times and stacking. So I don't feel like I need to add any more dimension to the sentiment other than that little bit of stacking that I did. So once again, I am using a fine-tipped glue. This is the Barely Art glue again. And I just feel like this is one of the easiest glues for getting into little intricate letters like this. So the other great thing about gingham and plaid paper is you can also use it to adhere your sentiments, and it gives you a guideline so that they're not crooked. So there's so many pluses and good reasons for using gingham and plaids other than they're so pretty and they are absolutely perfect for this time of year. You know what? They're pretty much great all time of year too. They're great in summer and spring. So I say plaids and ginghams are great no matter the season. So we are to the point where it's time to start adhering down all of those fantastic cozy foliage pieces that we die cut from white and ink blended. So this red plaid card has a little bit more of that Christmassy or wintry holiday feel. So I am using the pine boughs, the pine cone, and then for a really fun pop of color, I am also featuring those turquoise colored holly leaves. And I think that they're just such a super fun addition. And of course, every single card is going to get one of those bows. So it's also going to get a red bow. Now that I have the somewhat of a direction for how I want those pieces to look on card number 1, the hello card, I'm just going to use some liquid glue again to adhere them into place. Now, I always start by just adding a little bit of glue to the very bottom of the sprigs like that, where I know it will connect with the card base. You can always come back in after you have made your placement, adhered everything down. You can always come back in and reinforce with more liquid glue. So keep that in mind. It may seem like I am not putting a ton of glue down, but this gives me a little bit of wiggle room. If I end up not liking a placement, it's not too hard to pick it back up. You can remove it, put it back down, add a little more glue here and there. But I'm pretty notorious for using less glue at first and then giving myself the chance I can come back and reinforce that once I am comfortable with the placement of all of the little bits, baubles, foliage, goodies, all of those things. I think this cute little wintry cluster is coming right along. I think that look turned out super cute on this card. And I think that one pretty much looks like it's finished. So let's move on to the thank you card. Now this thank you card, okay, so what I would say is the hello card kind of has that late fall, kind of Christmassy vibe. I would say that the thank you card, or this one, is leaning a little bit more towards that like cool winter temps. So I chose all of those kind of more like sprig type foliage that we ink blended in mint. And I am using them on this little bit of a lighter tone card. I think it is going to be such a pretty tone. And then that little pop of red that comes in with the bow, I think is just a perfect little touch. It gives it a little bit of somewhat holiday flair, but can really be used any time of the year. So I am just kind of using those little filigree pieces almost like a swag on that upper right corner of the frame. And then we're just going to cover up the little areas where the end of the branches meet. We're just going to cover those up with a bow, and no one will see that part at all. Okay, the thank you card is looking pretty good. We've got just one final card here. Now this is the card that's going to have a little bit more of a fill. So I am taking those multi-tone leaves and just layering them along the edge of that plaid paper that we cut at a little bit of an angle. And this is part of the reason why I popped up just the one edge with the foam tape. This allowed it so I didn't have to put foam tape on each of the leaves, but they still have a little bit of added dimension off of the card off of the card base. It gives that lovely natural shadowing, all of those fun things. So once I like the placement, I am just going to go ahead and glue these leaves into place with some liquid glue, just following along the edge of that angle that we cut. You'll notice I'm fluffing the leaves here and there just to give them a little bit of added dimension. That's mostly for photographs. I am gonna be honest on that one. I think once you send them through the mail, the fluffing probably will get flattened, but that's okay. It's at least really pretty in the photographs. This little maple leaf right here is probably my favorite of all of those fall leaves. So I am letting it take center stage here. It is also going to be the one that the bow is on, so that pop of red will really lead your eye to the leaf that is my very favorite of all of those. They're all great, don't get me wrong. I love the ombre tone in them, but I do really love that maple leaf. And I guess by adding the little red bow, it's a little bit of a nod to our friends above us up in Canada with the maple leaf and the red. So now that, oh, my bow is not sticking. So apparently it needed a little bit more glue. That's okay. We'll just add it on there. So now I'm going to let these sit for a minute and let the glue set up and get all of that foliage nice and set up so it's not going to move on us. And then once the glue is set, I'm going to come in with these beautiful Christmas red confetti. These are brand new embellishments from Pink and Main. They just released, and I did verify that they were in the store at Scrapbook.com. So I just think that they are a beautiful bright red. Sometimes red is tricky, and these ones are like that perfect holiday red. And they really worked with the bows that I ink blended, and they also just worked really well on all of the cards. They actually almost look like berries, which I think is really fun. So you'll notice, especially on the hello card and the thank you card, that I tucked them into a lot of the foliage areas, like the pine boughs and the little green sprigs, because I think that they kind of look like they're little clusters of berries. So I am using liquid glue and an embellishment tool to help glue these into place. Sometimes they can be a little fussy and a little stubborn, but we get there. We get there eventually. Sometimes I have to come back in and reinforce with a little bit more glue, and that's okay. It happens. So just trying to finish up here with these cute little berries that are these are the ones that are being a little bit fussy with me, but I am going to make it work. I'm going to have a make it work moment, and we are going to get the embellishing done. You have to tell me if it's the same case for you. Oftentimes my embellishments are what take me the longest because they can be a little fussy and they can be a little finicky about getting glued in place, especially if there's multiple layers. So if you have the same troubles that I do, you're not alone. I craft hours and hours every single week because this is my job, and I still sometimes fumble around with all of these cute little embellishments, but they're so pretty, and I think they're still worth it no matter what if they cause you a little bit of fussing here and there. And look at how cute those are. Don't they just look like adorable little berries on the little cozy foliage that we cut? I just love them. Well, that is my fun trio of cards. I don't really know what to call them. I guess we can just call them seasonal cards because they're kind of fall, they're kind of winter. They have a little bit of holiday vibe here between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's just all the things. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed watching these 3 cards come together. Now, if you're interested in any of the products that I featured today, you will find them all linked in the video description below. So definitely check that out. And other than that, that is everything that I have for you in my latest video here on the Scrapbook.com YouTube channel. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for watching.
For the best experience, watch and shop our videos at scrapbook.com/livestream.
Everything's in one place, the videos, products, and fun.
Sign up for our VIP text to get an alert so you can join us so you'll never miss a live.
Scrapbook.com/livestream, the best way to watch.